Okay, so now that I'm all set up, I'm gonna start to talk a little bit. Um, in this video today, let's set this title and get started. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the three-part structure. Okay, now what is the three-part structure? Well, we are usually taught this in school, our elementary or grade schools, right? So it has a beginning, which has our inciting incident. It has our middle, which is our bridge, as I call it. And then we have our twist, or the end, which is the closing scenes. So these are our three main parts of a three-part structure. Now, the reason you'll see that I put beginning, middle, and twist rather than end is actually a bit of J.K. Rowling here. Okay, so J.K. They had a way of saying that the key to a successful story, here we go, has three key parts: a beginning, a middle, and an end. Okay? Now, as you can see, I'm actually typing out what I'm saying on this sheet so you guys can follow along. My camera's like over here somewhere, uh, probably blocking off the select insert line arrows and curves, polygons, curve, polygon, and rectangle tools. All of this bottom bar, I don't really use it, although I know I could. Most of all of the things I do is going to be from up here. So you'll always know what I'm doing. And this is again done in LibreOffice if you're curious as how I'm doing this. I will be doing more tutorials about how to make things look prettier in Office. So with that being said, let's go ahead and break a new page. So what takes a beginning? So what is in a beginning? Now, in the beginning of a story, we find that you meet the main character, right? You meet their parents. And you also will meet the love interest. Now, I am not a great speed typer, but so we'll meet the main characters, their parents, and their love interest in the beginning, right? And usually that will give us a taste of day-to-day life, and it gives us a sense of what our characters are all about, right? So if they like ramen a lot, like for example, if I was to write a book about Naruto, right? Naruto, the main character of Naruto is Naruto, the blonde boy with the Rasengan, and it, it- anyways, I'm kind of side railing a bit. With that being said, Naruto loves his ramen. That's like one of his key character components. It's his favorite food. So if you're going to make your character have something convincing that you want in the beginning, you're going to want to have something that they have as a bit of a vice or something that they have as a bit of a personality trait. For example, I'm a smoker. So if you're never writing that your character, if they're a smoker, never has a cigarette, it doesn't really convince them that they have that. So their day-to-day lifestyle has a lot of uh, remixing to happen in your story, right? Like, if he is stressed, if your main character is stressed in the beginning of the story, he might light a smoke because, well, he's a smoker, if that's how you're going about it. However, if he's stressed and he's not having a smoke, why is he not having a smoke? It's a smoker. If that's an addiction of theirs, then you should be writing why they don't have that cigarette, why they don't have that source, because this is all part and parcel of how your character will be. So the beginning actually lays all the groundwork for your main character. And then, when you're done that, this is where we meet the big baddie, or the antagonist. Now, what is an antagonist? Well, let's get into that in the next section here, okay? So we'll go ahead and page break. And we're going to go ahead and go title again. And we're going to go, what is an antagonist. And then we'll go back to the previous section in a second here. Now, an antagonist is the big bad guy in your storyline, or your overpowering obstacle for your main character. Oh my gosh, I am so bad at typing fast, guys. I apologize. Uh, so let's get rid of that capital main character. Okay, so that is essentially what the antagonist is. Now, a lot of times when we talk about an antagonist, we only want one bad reason. So that they are just bad. However, why? You need to ask this when you're looking at your antagonist. Why are they inherently evil? What drives them? Okay. Uh, you also want to know what their goals are and how they line against the main character. All right. And I think I've covered a fair bit about character working and this aspect here, like for why you want an antagonist. Um, I'm going to do a bit more on this later, this whole section. I'm going to break down my actual um, thing. And you can tell I am not actually a very good speed writer. This is actually why I edit my books, guys. Like, if you're not editing, like, as you can tell, I'm editing now. But if you're not editing your book, it's a dead book on arrival, guys. You gotta at least go through once, touch up your writing, make sure there's no typos. Do it yourself at least once before you pass it on to your editor or whoever you're gonna have do your formatting. Anyways, back to what is in a good beginning. So we need a challenge for the character. Okay, so with this challenge, you're gonna find that they need something, whether that's a change, an item, or a power. A lot of times it could be various things. It could be a multitude of things. However, that depends on how big of a book you're writing. I mean, not all of us are Tolkien, right? We're not going to have this massive 35,000 plots in one little section of a book. We're not Tolkien. Okay? I'm not Tolkien. I'm not going to pretend I'm Tolkien. That's some high level shit. That is some next level shit. My Draconis Wars book, I don't even think holds a candle in the grandness of that book, even though it is a pretty freaking grandiose book. It's not like how Lord of the Rings is, because they have like plots everywhere, plot twists, plot seeds. You could write side stories on plot seeds in Tolkien's books. Okay, so when I say they need something, it could be just something that the world needs, and the main character is trying to get that for the world, right? Um, World impact is another thing. Is your character, if your character is a super character, if you're going into wars and stuff, world impact is a big thing. If you're going into a war, right, what effects is it having? You want to cover this kind of stuff. Now, in the beginning, you will have the inciting incident that will talk about why your character is going on this massive journey, right? So, what is the journey? And that will bring us into this. Again, we're going to go back and we're going to start another section because now we're going into the middle. Now, this is like, I guess this is more like the meat and potatoes, right? You got a taste of the uh, the book by now, right? So you've got a taste of that meat right here. This very basic meat, right? It's seasoned, sure, but it is your meat. Okay, your beginning. Now this here, your middle, right? So your bridge is actually like potatoes. Okay, for the sake of this analogy, right? So your beginning's like the meat. You get a taste for it. You know, you're getting into the book, liking it. Okay, well, let's have some potatoes with that. We need some filler to, you know, make this story not so just condensed, right? So the potatoes. So this is what's stopping your character, right? So we want our main character to hit the goal, but what's stopping them? Like what motivating factors, outside influences? This could be a war. This could be the parents are whatever in this case, right? You could be able to make it so that they need to get a sword to unlock the crypt before they go into this massive dungeon. It could be a matter of, oh, well, I needed this guy's pinky from his skeleton so I could stick it in the keyhole to the chest, and that's how I get it. Like, there's all kinds of different ways that you can have a divergence from the story and still provide a depth to it, and that's what your bridge is all about. Your bridge is the idea that makes it the journey itself, all of the things, all the people. So, does your main character make friends along the way? That is a very key component. I mean, how many characters are you planning on having in this book? At this point in your bridge, you're going to be introducing a whole new slew of characters over this whole bridge, right? Because this is about 50% of your book. So you're not just going to have like one or two different characters introduced like you would in the first bit, not in your meat of the beginning, right? The meatiness of the beginning only gives you maybe four characters at most. And then your bridge, you start realizing there's this guy and this person and this friend, and oh, this person loaned me a car key because, like, why not? I borrowed their car. Like, or they bump into somebody and they like this person, so they join in on the journey because they're amassed by the passion of your main character, for example. I don't know. This could be so many different things. There's so many ways you could take this, especially when it comes to writing. You have so much freedom when it comes to your bridge. You could discuss flora and its role in some cases because some items will have healing and stuff. So, like, if you want to go into the depth of why people do the things they do in the world and, like, a little bit here and there, as we call it, lore dumps, right? You can do small lore dumps in your bridge. You don't have to do mega dumps, right? We don't want to have like 15 pages of just deep lore explaining everything. No. But however, if your friend, like you're writing your character and their friend is picking a flower and they pick the flower and they don't say why, it might be an idea to have your main character ask because that presents the opportunity to explain the lore. Now, it's all about presentation when you're going about writing. An author has the duty to present, and that is the hardest part of writing. In my personal opinion, you got to know how to present all this information. Now, in this bridge section, it may be an idea to consider your magic system if you have one, right? And how it works. Now, the reason why I put this in this part of the tutorial, in this guide, is because I personally use a lot of magic in my books. I have mental illness in some of them. I have magic where the guy can shapeshift, and it's a matter of turning his arm into a blade to kill this demon and electrocute it. So, like, there's all kinds of different things that you could do with your magic systems, but you got to make sure you understand the rules to your magic system. Because one day you may wind up like how I wound up in a book I'm in progress on. I almost made a vital error. I changed the rules to my magic system mid book, and the reason I had to was because it was getting dry. So I made it so that it was actually not that the rule was that. They just thought the rule was that. So it's just a matter of the understanding from the character's perspective at that point. Not my perspective, but the characters. The characters didn't know of it, and that helps provide the depth of the lore on why they thought they couldn't harm other people with magic. It makes sense, and that's you got to think outside your boxes. Not everything in writing is going to be a clean little folder, guys. And that's the hard part about plotting is sometimes it's not going to be all nice and tidy. You're not going to be able to pin it and wrap that little string and pin, wrap, and do it again. Okay, it does not work that way. as much as I wish it did. I love plotting. I love world building. I could show you guys the sheets that I have for the Draconis Wars and Helios alone. I have about 300 pages of just lore, which is almost as long as the book itself. And the sequel still uses some of that lore and is adding to that lore. And I'm writing the sequel right now. We're at about 30,000 words, I believe it was, last time I checked. So the sequel is coming soon, guys. I am working on it. I'm sorry it's taking so long. But I digress. Back on track to what we're talking about, the bridge. Now, the bridge could be any kind of scene. So it could also be a series of scenes. So with the bridge, you want to think about where your character is going and what can interfere. So do they have conflicts? Friendship challenges, I should say. Do they have friendship challenges? You want to talk about that. Feelings, okay? You got to talk about feelings. That's the part that people really connect with, okay? If your character has a knife at their throat, they should be fucking petrified. Their life is in immediate danger. They should not be just sitting there. I'm sorry, I've read a lot of books, and for those of you that like this in a book, I can understand why, but it's done to death. Um, the big baddie has the main character in this wrestling grip and then all of a sudden gets an advantage point and the main character can't move. They can't do anything. The antagonist has them without a doubt, but the main character starts laughing. I'm sorry, but you're not a lot of times in these books where you see that scenario happen, you don't see them explaining why they're laughing. They're not explaining if it's a deep sense of fear. They're not explaining if it's paranoia. They're not explaining if they actually had an idea in their head. And sometimes that really takes away from the depth of the book. Your feelings of the character, the feelings you put in your character really matter. And that's what connects your audience. If you don't write your feelings clearly in your books for your characters or for the people, the pets, the places, the tone of your book, it all falls apart. If there's no feeling in your book, you're just writing a big empty space. It could have a great story, it could have great structure, but there's no feeling to it, there's no heart. It's not going to get read and loved the same. And that's a fact. You need a bit of heart in your book. That's what that feelings section is all about. Okay, guys. So when we look at that, we got to consider this. Okay, we want to know if they have challenges. We want to know the magic. We want to know what the main character makes friends like. Addictions. Again, well, do they have addictions? Are they healthy? That's a big thing. Mental health. I mean, with today's day and age, I don't know too many people that don't have some sort of mental ailment for a main character or a character in their book. Also, you may want to dictate their sexuality. Now, the reason why I say this is because some books will actually have relationships in them where boyfriend meets girlfriend and they fall in love and they get into this big adventure and next thing you know they're married at the end of the book, right? That's fine. So just make sure you dictate that in some sort of way, whether it's a thought like, I really like this girl and I've always liked girls, or maybe they're bisexual, so they're like, I never really been able to pick. I don't know if I would like men or women. Da, da, da. You want to add those senses of sexuality if you're going to use them. If you're planning on writing a romance, you want to use sexuality in your own favor because, well, what's romance without a bit of sexuality, really? Um, if you have no chemistry between your characters, that sexuality, that tension, that wish to get together, the characters won't sink in the same, okay? So we want to keep that in mind when we're looking at this. Now, um, I know that I personally like to make note pages, okay? And the note pages I have are main character usually, okay? And I'll explain this all in a moment. But main character, antagonist, and we go love interest as well. Because every book has a love interest, even if they never wind up getting together. It's always a good idea to have that ready. Anywho, so the main character page, what that has is their appearance. I actually am working on a tool for this for you guys that you guys can link to and copy and format to your own content. I'm working on it, but that will be put into a video link later on, and I'll let you guys know when it's ready. Appearance, we want their personality, we want their likes and dislikes. Uh, we want their family history, right? We want to know whether they came from, who they're from, hometown. See, this is something I find is never really added into the character detail sheets because most of the characters start off in their hometown. However, sometimes it's nice to have that noted aside, right? So the antagonist, we want, again, appearance, but we want goals too. We want the goals, and we want likes and dislikes, like before. We want everything that is above. I'm just going to keep doing that. Like, I'm going to star that just because, honestly, it repeats. Okay? All of these pages have the same information for each of the characters. You could do this for the best friend. So you could have best friend, like, and there's your notes, right? And then you could have friend X, because maybe they have another friend, or uh, love interest number two, because maybe they are in a love triangle, right? Like, just to give you guys some ideas. Um, with all that said, I think this is a good time to break it into the end part. Now, this part I call the twist, or the end. Now, the reason why I like to take after R.L. Stine for the twist aspect is because this is where it gets us interesting. This is where things get interesting now. Okay, the twist is the part where the end is nigh. Okay, like we know that this is the last 25% of the book. That book is going to be ending. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. We have done everything that we can with the potatoes. So here we go, adding into the vegetable mixtures. Finish off that meal, the gravy, whatever you want to go with. Gravy honestly would probably fit better for this because this is just putting icing on a cake kind of scenario. So this is like the gravy to your meat and potatoes, right? So now you want to twist it. Now, what is a twist? Well, a twist is like boy meets girl, but falls for a dragon. That would be a twist. Okay? You expect them to fall in love with the girl, but they fall for the dragon. I know it's completely weird, but that would be a legitimate twist. You want to make it so it's not like what it appears. Okay, you want to add a slight twist to it just so that it gets the brain to think, huh, I didn't see that coming. You know? If you can see the end of a book before the end of a book, odds are it's not that good of a book. And I hate to say that because I do that with my own books sometimes. I've read through my books and I'm like, okay, well, can I tell which way I'm going with this? And yeah, sometimes I can. So that's even critic on myself there, right? But that being said, it happens to the best of us where we write a really great book, but we forget about the key twist, especially when it comes to horror genre books. Okay, you walk in, you got this possessed house or this haunted house, and the kid goes in the basement and he finds a journal, and then the journal opens up the witchcraft world, and next thing you know, this witch is killing everybody in town. Okay, well, the end of this book is probably going to end with that journal being burned or that witch being magically fought by another witch. And the ends are very predictable. Now, if you came in and said, okay, well, that witch is going to get fought by a priest, well, that's a twist. That is not something you encounter as much. You know what I mean? So as long as you find a way to make you stand out, that is the twist. Standing out even with tropes. Because tropes are going to happen. No matter what author you are, you're going to write a trope. No matter who you are, at least once. Okay? I mean, out of all of the writing you do, there's no way you can write one book that does not have a single trope in it. Okay? Like even my book, okay, the Draconis Wars, that uses the chosen one. For example, that's a trope. The one character is the one person that can actually save all of what is good. And that is a trope. However, usually you see these kinds of tropes where the chosen one always comes the upper hand. He wins every time. What about the scenarios where he loses? You could write that as a twist. Mind you, sometimes killing the character can ruin your series. So use your discretion. Killing a character at your end of your book, that is a decision and a half, okay? Because there are books that you could write as standalone and series that finish with a main character dying. Now, how you go into a sequel from there, that's up to you. You could choose to go main character's best friend, or main character's kids, or neighbor, or, just up the street, and they're continuing along the storyline kind of thing. Where one story ends, you can uprise another story from another character and create a new arc for series writing. Now, now that's the thing. When you're ending your book, does it have series potential? Okay, in the twist of this, you need to consider the possibility that your audience may actually want you to write a sequel. And that happens a lot in this industry, guys. Like, if people really love your standalone book, they're going to ask for a sequel. They're going to recommend it. They're going to request it. They're going to be like, "Hey, when are you writing another one? Is there another book coming for this?" And you'll read that, but a lot of times authors don't reply. Okay, and this is actually a secret trait to the author world. Um, the reason why we don't um, let you guys know if we're actually planning on writing that sequel that you guys want so bad is because it does take time to write. Some people can sprint out a book in a month. Other people, it takes can take a year, 2 years. It all depends. So, with that in mind, you've got to understand that there is pressure. Now, in the twist, that pressure is much like how an author's life is. Okay, see, I circle back. I'm good at that. I can redirect myself back into my topic. But what I must admit is the pressure that you put into the twist, all that pressure that you've been building for the last 75% of your book should find a release point. Okay? This, here, let's do it this way. This is the release of pressure in the story. There we go. That's how I put it. This is where you want to release all of the pressure in your story. Okay? Now, that being said, sorry I had to adjust a little bit. That probably looked a little weird on the camera. Um, but yeah, so with that being said, all of these things that we've talked about in this video, let's recap a little bit here. So we got the beginning, right? The inciting, the middle and bridge, the twist and closing scenes, right? We know that we need the main character, the parents, the love interest, the lifestyle, addictions, all of that, or the impact of all at the beginning. We also know what to do with our antagonist a little bit because we touched on that. We now know what all happens in a bridge because there's a lot that can happen in a bridge. We're going to actually go very detailed into how to work a bridge later in another video, but um, twist is my personal favorite section of the books, and honestly, that's how you're going to stand out the most, is how you end your book. Because if the book's memorable all the way through, you want a memorable ending. Because if the Hunger Games, for example, ended with Katniss Everdeen dying and Peter Marlowe living, I don't think too many people would have been happy with the underdog losing. You know what I mean? And that's another trope. That's the underdog trope. But they still won. But they didn't really because, well, I'm not going to spoil that movie or those books, but you get what I'm getting at. So, with that being said, guys, I hope you found this to be somewhat helpful. I'm just trying to see if maybe there's some things I can bring to your guys' attention that might not have been covered before. And I'm really thinking I'm going to do a lot more of these videos because these seem to be in demand. The creative process, how to use it, and what to go about. A lot of people don't really know. Okay, and I don't know if that's just like me seeing that, because I go looking for authors. I go looking for the writing. I go looking for your videos. And yes, I'm talking to you, iWriter Lee, because you need to post more, please. I like your videos. um, if they're watching at least. But with that being said, I'm going to digress a little bit. Um, you could go to all kinds of different authoring YouTube channels, guys. There's iWriterly. They're fantastic. Um, Honestly, when I was starting out, that was actually a really good use of resource for dictating what tropes I wanted to use, which writing style I was going to create for myself. So that's also a very useful channel to go to. Um, if you're looking for tools and stuff like that, I recommend you check out Reedsy. They actually have some pretty good um, material for their how-to and authorships and all that. Um, I think that's the end of this video, though, guys. I don't think there's anything more I can really add to this at the moment. So thank you guys for coming in. Again, this was all unscripted, so if you like that, give it a thumbs up, hit the sub, hit the notification bell. I'm pumping out videos like crazy lately. I'm also singing a lot lately, so there's also those videos coming out. And I think this is a good start for my writing files uh, on YouTube. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.